Today I want to share with you a little bit about my experience with crocheting and how I use different techniques in order to make my projects better and higher quality and more polished. And what I want to talk to you about is, first of all, how do you choose the right yarn, especially if there's a suggested yarn on the pattern and you either can't find it or you don't want to use it for different reasons, or maybe it has maybe the yarn you want to use is in a different brand because they have the right color or something. How do you choose one that is actually equivalent to the yarn that is on the pattern? Then I want to talk a little bit about crochet needles, especially when you're doing amigurumi. I'm sorry, I don't speak Japanese, but teddy bears thingies. How do you choose the right hook to make the weave or the fabric tight enough that you don't see the stuffing? And also, how do you choose the right stuffing so that it doesn't show, even if you do have a little bit of a wrong gauge, I think, on the with the yarn and the hook. I have a little bit of a secret to how I do it, which I have only discovered like recently, so all of my old stuff is really ugly, but the new stuff is better, so let me show you how I did that. Okay, so let's say you found a pattern and you really want to work it, but you don't want to use the yarn that is on the pattern. So let's say that might be this color, and it's Drops Love Shoe, and it's 8/4, and it's 100% cotton. So you've gone out and you found this color, and you're like, yeah, that's a pretty color. I can perhaps wear that. Whereas I think this would, yeah, I'm not sure that would work for my complexion. So I don't want to create clothing for myself in really stark yellow. But I think I could wear this color, perhaps. Yeah, probably. So I found, of course, one that has the same. It's 100% cotton. It looks sort of like it might be the same. It's 8/4, and I just want to know, are they actually the same, or is this perhaps a little bit thicker, a little bit thinner? So what most people tend to do is they look at the hook or the knitting needles that are suggested for the yarn. So if you go here, this one says 3.5 millimeters or US 4/E. I have no idea what that means, but it probably means something to some of you. So I will go out and try and see if I can find the same thing. And on this yarn, unfortunately, it actually says 3, I think, when I checked. Doesn't it? Yes, here. It actually says 3, and it has a picture of knitting needles. So I'm a little bit bummed. I want to use this, but it doesn't seem to be the same, right? Well, we don't really know for sure, because the suggestion about the hook or the needles is actually just sort of a guess. They're trying to estimate whether or not a normal knitting tension gauge will produce a nice fabric. They haven't said, like, you need to use these to get this result, because everyone knits a little different, everyone crochets a little different, so we still don't know. The magic number on this is actually, if we go a little further down, it says weight/length. And here it says 50 grams, or 1.8 ounces, is the same as 170 meters, or 158 yards, I think. That might be wrong, I'm sorry. But 50 grams is the same as 170 meters. So I can go on this yarn and go, is that the same here? And on this yarn it says 50 grams is the same as 170 meters. Meaning that if you put the yarn out and you get 100 grams, or sorry, 50 grams, you would have 170 meters of yarn. Because these are equivalent in every other way, and they also have the weight to length ratio is the same. These are actually equivalent, even though the manufacturer of this one thinks, hey, a 3mm needles will be great, and the manufacturer of this one says 3.5. So the magic number is the weight to length, not the estimated or the suggested hook size. Okay, so what is the correct size hook for the yarn that you have chosen? Well, if you're knitting or crocheting something where the size is really important, then you should stick to what is on the pattern, probably. But if you're making something where it's not super important, it's just important that you can't see through it or something like that, that might be for teddy bears or play food or something like that, you really should see what is the correct hook for the tension that you have, the tension that you crochet with, and the yarn that you have chosen. So I have this yarn, and I have a couple of different hooks that I use for it. Because this yarn is something like 2-3 on the band. I'm pretty sure it said something like 2 or 3. I'm not completely sure. I threw it away. But I use different hooks for it when I need different things. So, for example, we have them here. If I am doing double crochets, I will look at the pattern and I'll try to figure out whether I want something like this or whether I want something like this. So I sort of know that this I get with the tension that I work in with a 1.5 or 2 millimeter hook, and I get this at about 3 or 3.5. So it really depends. Of course, if you're making, as I said, if you're making something where you don't want it to be see-through, don't want too many holes, of course you would want this one. But if you're making something like lace and you insist on using cotton thread, I don't know why you would, but let's say you have to, because it needs to be washed a lot of times or something. Anyway, you might want to use the bigger hook. So look at if you have a pattern, of course, you would look at the finished result and you would sort of go, is it more like this or more like this? And then you would choose the hook. And you might need to do a couple of samples. These are just normal rounds that I crocheted. I have a couple of these in double crochet, and I have a couple of the same one in single crochet where I'm just doing the same thing. If you were making a teddy bear, of course you would want this. You would not want this. I don't know how close you are to, but the reason there are holes in these are because the 3 millimeter hook leave this kind of hole, and the 2 millimeter hook leave this kind of hole, which is a little bit better. So I would suggest to you, if you have a lot of problems with see-through teddy bears, go down a hook size and see if you can perhaps increase your tension. It might not be very nice for you to increase your tension, so maybe another hook would be a better solution. The last thing I want to talk to you about is when you're making plushies or teddy bears or whatever you want to crochet, how do you get the stuffing to not poke out? How do you get it to not show? So if you have a really dark color and you have white stuffing filling, what do you say? Which one of those is not something you can eat? Basically, you would like to crochet something and you would like it to just only show the crocheted part, not the fiber thing inside of it. So one part of it, of course, is, as we just talked about, which needle do you use and how do you get like a really tight fabric. The other part of it is the kind of stuffing that you use. So this kind of stuffing, which is something you would use for pillows or something like that, this kind has a little bit of a hazard to it. And it is that you crochet something and you might actually be happy with it, but then you start stuffing it. And you want to stuff it until it's really nice and plumb. And the problem with that is you might end up stretching your stitches. And once you do that, there's really not a way of consistently sort of unstretching them and making them nice again. So what might end up happening is you spend a lot of time making this amazing teddy bear, and then you stuff it, and now you can see a lot of holes in the fabric that you made. So one part, of course, is learning how to stuff it correctly, and a lot of people are really good at this, and they know exactly what is enough and when is enough and how to get it to be even, because another part of it is that you might make it sort of clumpy, so you might be a little bit afraid of putting too much in, and therefore it has like a lot in the bottom and then not a lot, and it's tricky. And my solution really is foam. So this is from, this one is from a pillow. This one is also from a pillow, but from like a cushion seat thing. I'm pretty sure it said that you could wash them, which is really nice. I haven't tried it, so I'm not completely sure that it's a good idea, but perhaps if something happened, maybe you would be able to actually wash it. The big thing with this is that you need to cut it out in the right shape. With the fiber filling, you will just stuff it in there until it looks right. Or use whatever technique you can use to actually make it look right. I can't do it. Mine always sort of they don't get very nice when I'm using the filling. So what I do is I take these, and I have a couple of different examples here. One is the bee, and as you can see, this is thinner than my bee is. So what I did was I cut pieces out, and then I put them on top of each other, and then I sort of trimmed around it. So you're a little bit of a sculptor, but you're trying to sort of take away the parts that are not correct, and then you just take all of that and you stuff it into the plushie before you're done crocheting it. Another solution is things that look like this, where I just have one, and this is just one layer of this, and then after I had the correct round form, I just carved the edges so that it would be, you can see that it's not square, it goes like this on the sides, so I just cut around it until it had sort of the right shape. The yarn, of course, pushes on this a little bit. It depends on what kind of foam you get, but this doesn't give much shape. I have used other pieces of foam in the past that sort of show more. So it depends on what you get, and you might have to experiment a little bit, but I think these are they're so much nicer than any plushies I've ever made because of the foam, and they keep their shape. There's no amount of pulling at it which will make the shape of it become weird. So definitely the foam is a little bit hard to, this is knit of course, but it's the same thing. You could have crocheted this. This was a little bit harder to stuff because in the bottom here I have two little pieces of the foam which I put in to begin with. Then I have a piece which is just one square for his stomach, and then I have a couple of pieces of this on top of each other which I sculpted down in order to make this shape, and I think I should have perhaps put a little bit more in the cheek area, this part out here, but it's alright, and it's not that difficult, but it is a little bit difficult to get a nice result. So that's my secret is foam instead of fiber filling, if you get problems with that. The other thing is that this sort of holds its own shape, so you don't really get especially with the knit, the crochet sort of forms a shell which is easy to sort of, it has its own shape, whereas with the knitting, it's really difficult to actually get it to stay in shape. It's very floppy and it's very stretchy, which is a good thing in some parts, but in making plushies, it's a little bit annoying. So especially for the knit, I would say if you do make stuff like this, I think the foam would be just so much better than the fiber filling. But of course, in the crochet, you have a little bit more of I don't know what to call it. It's perhaps a little bit easier to get the right shape with the fiber filling. So, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next Friday.